How did your friend completely frick their life up? Going alone hiking into the mountains of Canada. His body was found 2 weeks later. Friend wins $500,000 in the lottery. Says he is going to use the money to go to college, and save/invest the rest. Spends it all on cars and partying. Now he is more broke than he was before he won. When I was a teller in college, this kid who is about 19 comes in with a $350,000 check. So obviously I start to chat him up to make sure it wasn't some Nigerian email scam or something. Turns out his dad died and this was the life insurance. I tell him, sorry your dad died, but at least he thought to take care of you. Why don't I set you up with one of our advisors? With a start like this you'll retire very comfortably at a young age. Nope, he's buying cars for everyone he knows. Not even good cars like 5-year-old Civics. The money was gone in less than 3 months. That was about 16 years ago now. If he had invested that money he would likely be pretty close to being a millionaire now. I wonder if he ever realized that he messed up bad. Okay, this is a story. I knew an exceptional mind in Midland High School, a smart dude, and a good guy, had an ego, but I would too if I was him with his grades and accomplishments. But he was pirating a ton of music and movies while in college. Don't get me wrong, I was into torrents too, but not into terabytes of shit, and this 10 years ago. He gets sued by them pa, drops out of college and starts working at a pizza joint, telling his parents he is going to the local college chapter when he wasn't. I guess the depression and the settlement and the amount of money them pa took him for was getting to him, so he decides to drive to West Virginia and try to live in the woods. Gets most of the way there and decides it's a bad idea. Now he has to explain why he was not at work or home. So he figured out a plan to fake a carjacking, parks his car at the Walmart and throws himself in the trunk for 16 hours and bangs on the trunk until some ladies let him out. The problem is that Walmart has cameras in their parking lot, so he was found to be a liar, and does time for faking the crime. Last I heard he was out working at Denny's. Edit, headline from the news. Okay, I've been waiting for this. I have a friend who invested way too much in a zombie apocalypse coming. He'd read too many conspiracies and things just got way out of hand. I remember sitting down with him at one point and listening to him say, man, if the zombies don't come soon, I have messed up my life. He'd bought so many emergency supplies, rations, and pieces of camping equipment, and he'd spent so much time planning what would happen. Like, he'd bought a katana, become quite invested in the learning of it, trained in ninjutsu, planned out where he'd bug out to, how he'd rescue his friends. But in doing that, he'd spent so much time planning what to do, that he'd completely neglected his non-apocalypse life. Where everyone else pumped their savings into housing and savings, he invested thousands and thousands of dollars in rations, guns and katanas. Where everyone else worked on their skills, I guess he did too, but he's put all his points into skills that are exclusively useful in an apocalypse. If there is an apocalypse, he's the most useful person on the planet to know. But if not, Drunk Mike used to be just regular Mike. Drank almost every day from the time he was 15 to whenever. After I got married and bought a house, I told him I didn't want him to know where I lived. He would show up at random times with random people to people's homes, and trouble always followed, and I wished the best for him. Saw him at a funeral a few years back. Couple years sober, but he literally drank himself stupid. Saying he is a bit slow now is a gross understatement. Broke up with his girlfriend, went out with his mates, got stupidly drunk, a fight ensued and he killed the other guy with one punch. Final year law graduate, national debate champion, excellent rugby player. Doing 6 years for manslaughter. Edit, for the many that are concerned, the punch broke the man's eye socket. The fall onto the road fractured his skull, causing severe brain damage and subsequent passing. Crazy how hard and how easy it is to kill someone. Right? It's either woman survives after being stabbed 27 times or man dies after tripping in parking lot. My friend was complaining how he didn't like his job and he needed to get out of there. I talked to my boss and was able to swing a job interview his way. I basically told him to just show up, speak well at the interview, and pretty much he would be working under me for a little bit. What does he do the night before the interview? He goes to a concert and gets completely trashed, shows up to the interview reeking of alcohol and weed. Obviously my boss wasn't going to deal with this, so he told my friend he wasn't going to hire him. My friend get confrontational with my boss and we have to call the cops. He runs downstairs to get back into his car and that's when the cops arrive. Not only did he have open alcohol in the car, and enough drugs to put down a bull elephant. I haven't seen the kid in years, and I don't know when I will again. Tifu, my credibility with my boss. TL/Doctor, drafted by the Cincinnati Reds, his dream, straight out of high school, got cut, gets pissed off at life, started drinking. 2 years go by, worked dumb jobs and drank lots more. His mother died and 10 months later inherits something approaching $1 million. Quits dumb job. Literally drinks himself to death in his dirtball apartment 4 days later. She had a full-ride scholarship right out of high school to the local university. Instead she moved across the country to be with a 17-year-old guy she'd never met in real life, to live with his mom. He didn't have a job and she worked at PetSmart. She came back after 4 months but had lost her scholarship. Now at 30 she's in her 3rd semester at that university, using loans. Me, that's what I did. Edit, wow, thanks for the gold. Thanks even more to everyone sharing their stories and encouragement. You guys are cool. Guy in high school started dating a 25-year-old woman. Of course a grown woman doesn't want to date a guy with a curfew and limited free time, so he rebels. Decides he doesn't want a dull, middle-class, happy family life, so he runs off with his girlfriend on his 18th birthday. Dropped out of school and throws away his fully funded college plans in order to be a man and support my woman, which he does by working 2 part-time mall food court jobs. His GF worked a low-paying but full-time job for a while, but they decided that she should quit and be a housewife, which, you know, may work in rural bumfrick nowhere, but is a very bad idea in coastal California unless you've got a very, very good job, which this dude does not. His parents almost convinced him to move him and his GF back home so that he could get his GED and go to college, which they were still willing to pay for. His girlfriend, 30 at this point and still unemployed, threw a fit and told him that his parents were still trying to run his life and convinced him to cut off contact with them. His next idea was the military. Nope, his GF couldn't be away from him for that long and told him she'd kill himself if he joined. So he scrapped that idea too, all to keep his GF happy. Okay, so maybe he should try entry-level warehouse jobs. Something with growth potential? Nope, warehouse jobs don't come with free or discounted food to bring home, because his GF, the housewife, didn't want to have to go grocery shopping or cook often. Too much for her fibromyalgia, you know. He's 36 now. He finally got a Section 8 apartment in a not-so-nice area, but he's thrilled because it's a 1-bedroom instead of a roach-infested studio, or the garage belonging to one of her family members. His now wife is the love child of the Pillsbury Doughboy and the demon from The Grudge. She still doesn't work. His biggest accomplishment is his full-time job as assistant manager of a knockoff Subway. His parents disowned him, and he never got to say goodbye to his brother when he died. But hey, at least he avoided that boring middle-class lifestyle. This girl at my college dropped out of school after like her freshman year but never told her parents. After a few years graduation is coming up and as far as her parents knew she was graduating, she killed herself like a week before, I guess to avoid the shame of her parents finding out. Sad shit. A guy in HS I kinda knew decided it'd be a good idea to climb on a bus stop roof. It was like 5 meters high, and jump off it. Ended up botching the landing, fractured his skull, broke a shoulder and severely damaged his spine. He wasn't a close friend, but a neighbor of mine went out for a few beers to celebrate enlisting in the parachute regiment, and then celebrated a bit too hard, to the point where he woke up in a holding cell. If this had been an isolated incident, it might not have been so bad, but he already had prior convictions for that sort of thing and had to work very hard to convince the recruiters that he'd cleaned up his act. I would feel much sorrier for him if he didn't then go into a downward spiral that involved hosting so many rowdy parties that even the stoners were fed up of the racket, getting evicted for it and trying to set fire to the building out of spite. That sucks, but I imagine as far as the parachute regiment goes, that's probably not the worst kind of downward spiral he could have had.